It's week 8 of the NFL season, and as always, we at DFSG Plus bring you props to enhance your game watching experience every week. This week is special. It's a combination of Buymageddon and National Tight End Day on Sunday. So let's run that intro and see what's on the menu for this week. Welcome back to the DFSG Plus channel. I am your host on this show, the Touchdown Prop Show. My name is Axton Harding. You can find me on Twitter at AxmanIDP. I also do some fantasy IDP rankings over at IDP Plus. So feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. DMs are always open. But here we do touchdown props each and every week. Also check out our other shows with Sebastian and Professor Locks. They've been on heaters with college football, NFL props, money lines. I mean, you name it. They've been loading up the channel. They've been doing a great job this year, and they've had a lot of success. So if you want to make some real cash, go check out their shows as well. But here we're going to talk touchdown props. It's National Tight End Day this Sunday. I kind of classify it as like all week, I guess. I don't know if it's supposed to be a day or a weekend. Definitely on Sunday, nonetheless. And we also have our first edition of Buymageddon, where we've got the Cardinals, Lions, Jaguars, Rams, Raiders, and Seahawks all on bye this week. So we've kind of got some limited options here, but I do like a lot of matchups, especially for the tight ends this week. It was a pretty good day for matchups and looking forward to National Tight End Day. So let's jump right into it and see what we've got on the menu so far this week. We've got Dallas Goedert for an anytime touchdown at plus 150. He plays at home this week against the Giants. They get that revenge game after having lost to the Giants in a pretty shocking loss a couple of weeks ago. They get their revenge. They added Brandon Graham, a nice how do you want to say, a leader in the locker room, kind of bolster this defensive interior, gives Cam Scadaboo a nice big body to run into and kind of make it a little bit harder for him to gash this defense. Both teams are kind of hampered up, but Dallas Goedert kind of finds himself in a nice position. He literally just exploded 2 weeks ago for 110 yards in a score against this same team. That was with A.J. Brown even on the field. The team was completely healthy. I think they were just overlooking the New York Giants and how scrappy they can be. But now A.J. Brown is kind of a big question mark with no practice. He's not been at practice all week long, so it's not really trending in the right direction for him to play, which kind of just leads into better opportunity for Dallas Goedert and more targets for our guy and all of the other pass catchers as a matter of fact. So 2 touchdowns for Dallas Goedert. Should A.J. Brown not play is 10-1. Just kind of something might be fun to sprinkle a little bit of something on there. But more or less, we're going to target just an anytime touchdown. The Giants' coverage game is pretty wishy-washy, and they're missing key pieces in the secondary. They're missing Paulson Adebo, and they're missing Javon Holland this week. If you guys like injury updates or things things of that nature to kind of help you with sports betting and setting lineups for fantasy or whatever, go check out Sebastian Fearon on Twitter at the DGenDoc. He gives injury updates on offense and defense every day almost. It is pretty much every day unless he's just literally can't. So yeah, he's giving updates even sometimes multiple times a day. So go check him out again at the DGenDoc. So yeah, we're basically just targeting a weak secondary with the guy who's already torched this team. And now you talk about Jalen Hurts having had a perfect quarterback rating last week to just kind of set the record straight that he can be a good passer and a great quarterback. So let's lock this in for Dallas Goedert at plus 150 against the Giants this week. Next play here was going to be Jake Ferguson, anytime touchdown at plus 165 against the Broncos. Broncos got a pretty stout pass rush, but Dallas is also one of the league's highest scoring teams so far this season and over the course of the last several years. Dak's going to sling it as always, but perhaps Ferguson gets a bit more attention with typically quicker pass rush coming at Dak Prescott. Maybe he's got to get the ball out a little bit quicker and he hits Ferguson a little more often, perhaps in the red zone. So I think we've seen that there's clearly a connection established here between Dak and Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson has 6 touchdowns in the last 4 games. So the stats show that he's the favorite inside the red zone as well. He sees the most looks on passing downs inside the red zone. He has 9 receptions on 11 targets inside the 20. Pickens is second on the team with 10 targets. So here you go, guys. Actually, to kind of hone this in a little bit, Jake Ferguson's specialty is inside the 10. Inside the 10, he's 5 for 6 with 4 touchdowns. Pickens is 2 for 5 with 2 touchdowns. Inside even the 10, even as they get closer to the end zone, Dak Prescott really looks for Jake Ferguson. It's been clear this year. So his best stats come inside the 10. I like Jake Ferguson. He's very accurate, catches 90% of the balls he sees inside the red zone. So give me a matchup 2 against the Broncos, who kind of gave up 2 fluky touchdowns to New York Giants tight ends last week. Daniel Bellinger and Theo Johnson caught a tip pass. Daniel Bellinger had some blown coverage, but nonetheless, just lends well to the opportunity for mistakes to be made against tight ends. They kind of don't really pay that much attention. If there's a weakness in this Broncos defense, it's the fact that they don't really show much attention to tight ends. They just really rely on that quick pass rush. But Dak Prescott's going to get the ball out quick, so I think this week he's going to find himself in an outstanding matchup against the Broncos, and I think he's going to get a lot more attention, especially as they get in close. Lock it in for Fergie, getting a touchdown at plus 165. All right, I've got another one. In case you didn't know, we're going to celebrate National Tight End Day by getting all tight ends on the docket here. So I like this play a lot here for Pat Freiermuth, if you can get it as soon as you can, because we're looking at 3 times your money for Pat Freiermuth to just get 1 touchdown. Last week, he got 2 touchdowns and clearly showed that Rodgers, for whatever reason, all of a sudden feels like he can trust Pat Freiermuth, given him the most targets he's seen in a single game all year, with 6 targets last week and 2 touchdowns. Somehow or another, he quickly became one of the guys that Rodgers looks to often in last week's matchup against Cincinnati, who was an even better matchup than the Green Bay Packers this week. But last week, he saw 5 receptions on 6 targets for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rodgers, again, for whatever reason, now trusts Pat Freiermuth, because you can tell when Rodgers trusts or doesn't trust somebody. He won't throw him the ball. So up until this point, he's kind of looked Pat's way, but he hasn't really keyed in on him. Last week, he finally did. That was their go-to, and he made it happen. So I feel like in this matchup against a vulnerable Green Bay defense, I don't see why Pat Freiermuth and this connection with Aaron Rodgers couldn't take another step in one more week of play. Green Bay is a top 3 matchup for tight ends on the year. They've allowed 5 tight end touchdowns so far this season, 4 in the last 4, 3 in the last 2. So I think this is a great spot for Pat Freiermuth to find the end zone yet again, especially for National Tight End Sunday. And we can cash this in at 3-1, over 3-1, plus 310. So go ahead and jump on that one. I am definitely in on that one, and we'll probably be sprinkling in a little bit more. Might even throw another 2 touchdown. I bet that's 18-1 at least. So just things to consider. I like this matchup for Freiermuth, top 3 matchup against Green Bay this week. They've established that connection. Let's lock it in. Mason Taylor, anytime touchdown, plus 255 against Cincinnati. This is all assuming Tyrod Taylor's going to be the quarterback here, because Mason Taylor hasn't really been a quote-unquote sexy player so far this season with Justin Fields at quarterback. But again, hear me out. It's likely that, after being benched in a close game last week, that Justin Fields is not going to play. I know the team has not confirmed who's going to be starting at quarterback, but I think we can kind of read between the lines here. They brought in Tyrod Taylor in a game that wasn't a blowout. They were still competitive in that game and benched Justin Fields. So not due to injury, just flat out benched him. So to me, it speaks volumes that Tyrod Taylor is going to be the quarterback. And if we can safely assume that, then I think we're getting a good price here for Mason Taylor, because Tyrod Taylor is going to boost all of the pass catchers on this team. And then you add the fact that Garrett Wilson is not going to play this week, so this makes Taylor the most talented pass catcher available for Tyrod Taylor, and so Tyrod Taylor should be able to get. Sorry, we got two Taylors here. Tyrod Taylor should be able to get this Jets team in scoring position, and that's really what we need for Mason Taylor to get looks in the red zone. They just haven't been able to get in scoring position all year because Justin Fields is not a great quarterback, and teams know that with Justin Fields at quarterback, they are very, very limited. And the only big plays they're going to have is through on the ground for Justin Fields' likes because he cannot throw the ball very accurately. So teams often just shut down Justin Fields, and the team is basically useless. So now that you got Tyrod Taylor, a guy who's going to be somewhat competent at quarterback, I imagine they're going to be able to move the ball downfield, get in scoring position, and Mason Taylor is going to be the lead target getter. I would be willing to bet my money on that. So now that I've even talked about the Jets side, let's talk about the matchup because Cincinnati is their opponent this week, and they found themselves in the best tight end matchup that you could possibly be in so far this year. Cincinnati's allowed 5 touchdowns to tight ends in the last 2 weeks. 7 touchdowns to tight ends in the last 4, and 9 on the year. All lead the league in all 3 of those spans, and they also give up the most yards to the position. Cincinnati just flat out can't guard tight ends. They can't guard anybody. This defense is pretty well awful for about anything actual football related. But IDP, for fantasy, it's kind of a little fun. But for actually guarding opposing wide receivers and tight ends, they are awful. So I think Mason Taylor's in a great spot to get over 2.5 times your cash. Lock it in plus 255 against Cincinnati this week for Mason Taylor to score. All right, to wrap it up here, we've got Hunter Henry, anytime touchdown plus 175. He plays at home this week against Cleveland. This is Drake May's favorite target inside the 20. He's got 7 targets and 2 touchdowns this season inside the red zone. 4 of those have come inside the 5-yard line for 1 touchdown. So inside the 20, the red zone, where we really, for tight ends especially, we want to see guys who are getting usage inside the 20. That's our bread and butter. We can't really always expect these big guys to make big plays outside the 20 in order to score. So guys that are getting looks inside those inside the 20s up in close near the end zone. That's really what we want to target, especially in a good matchup here. And Cleveland also presents a pretty solid matchup, at least a top end matchup. They've allowed 4 tight end touchdowns to the tight end position over the course of the season. So they're tied with about 7 other teams for 4th most in the league. So let's cash this. End zone bounce back at plus 175 for Hunter Henry to find the end zone. He's been on a little bit of a cold streak the last several weeks, so I think for National Tight End Day against the Cleveland Browns and a hot quarterback, Drake May has been on fire lately, so I don't think even a stout Cleveland pass rush is going to keep him from finding the end zone. So I think if they get in close, Hunter Henry is going to get first crack at finding the end zone, especially on National Tight End Day. So I think nice juicy plays here that we can kind of sprinkle in a little cash on. So that's going to wrap it up for the show this week. Thank you guys for tuning in each and every week for our touchdown prop show. Again, go check out Sebastian and Derek over on their prop show. They've got tons of good stuff coming out there, and they've been hot the last several weeks. So thanks for rocking with me. Good luck this week. See if we can come up with some extra cash, take that family out to dinner this weekend, and have a little extra fun while we watch our football on Sunday. So good luck, everybody. Bet responsibly, set a limit, and stick with it. Again, be responsible here. Let's just have some fun. And we'll see you back next week for some Week 9 touchdown props.